Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to the Winning Drive. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Pleased to be joined by, first of all, you guys. Thank you guys for joining us. But also pleased to be joined by the young prodigy, lifetime Longhorn CJ Vogel, and the coach, former high school football coach at Burnick, Pale, Brownwood, Belton, Rotan. Also played college football. What's up, CB? Played college football at Abilene Christian. Also coached there multiple stints, but also was on the University of Texas football coaching staff for multiple head coaches. And now you can catch his work at ShipleyRanches.com. It is Coach Bob Shipley. All right, Coach. What's going on, Coach? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man.
Doing good. All right, we got a lot to get into on the show today, gentlemen, because Monday media availability, we'll hear a little bit from Steve Sarkisian. My man CJ Vogel was our man on the ground there, so I want to get CJ Vogel's thoughts about what Coach had to say. Of course, Texas win over a top 25 team. Throw that out there because I know a lot of Longhorn fans had a lot of criticism, a lot of critiques of the Longhorns' performance, even though they won versus Vanderbilt, but a lot on the road. We'll get into it, dissect it, and break it down. We'll talk about Quinn Ewers and his performance. We'll also get into some other we'll get some other news, notes, and nuggets surrounding the Texas football program. All right, first, gentlemen, you know how it goes. I'll answer all of your questions, ladies and gentlemen. Answer all of your questions. Super Chat, jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time. You know how that goes as well. And, of course, we have our man Stevie Lee, lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee, will join us at one point here in about 5 minutes or so you don't want to miss that conversation. But first, I want to get the guys' thoughts about what we saw this weekend from the Longhorns versus Vanderbilt. Coach, I'll give you the floor first. I'm sure, had a chance to rewatch and process everything. What were your thoughts about what you witnessed over the weekend with the Longhorns beating Vanderbilt?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I was very pleased with the way Quinn came back after that first interception. I thought it was going to be, here we go again kind of moment. But golly, what a game. What a game he played. Secondly, that's a good Vanderbilt football team. That's just, it is what it is. And a lot of the old people have a hard time grasping how they can move up the ladder of success so fast. Since we tried it for years and couldn't do it, and they got a stud in there with some key players and great staff. I'd like to see our offensive line play a little more consistent, and we're going to have to. But overall, it's probably a closer game than it should have been, but at the same time, Vanderbilt did everything they needed to do. The game worked out the way that they had hoped that it would, probably slowing us down, disrupting us some. But I may not be quite as peppy as I was, maybe after the OU win, but still, babe, it's a win. And in this conference, a win is a win is a win. Mm-hmm. And so you learn from it and you keep on moving. But I'm certainly not sending up a white flag or anything, like, our season's in trouble. I don't think that's true.
Yep, no panic yet. I agree with you, Coach. But there are definitely things to improve on. But as Coach said, you're a work in progress. Season's not over. You're trying to get better every week. And the Longhorns certainly have some things they can improve on. CJ, your thoughts after what you watched over the weekend. We'll dive into obviously some of the more, I would say, more details and X's and O's of the matchup. But what are your thoughts about the Longhorns' victory over Vanderbilt?
Yeah, Coach nailed it. You played a top 25 team on the road in the SEC, and you came away with the win. It wasn't pretty, and a lot of the issues that kind of plagued Texas against Oklahoma and Georgia were still there, right? Penalties, turnovers, field position. A lot of these things feel fixable, yet Texas has yet to truly overcome these issues so far over the last 3 weeks. But you get a bye week. You get to sit back, relax. You're 7-1. You're right where you want to be this year. Coming into the year, if you said you were 7-1 going into your second bye week, everybody would say, of course, I'll buy that. Georgia's a good football team. You lose to them, you're still on the, on track to play and achieve and get to exactly what you want earlier this year. But right now, there are some issues that Texas has to correct, and it's on the offensive side of the ball more than anything, right? Again, I talked about it. I think Quinn got a lot of heat for his play, right? A lot folks will look at 2 turnovers and 2 interceptions and say, well, that's not great. But I thought Quinn played well. A lot of the issues stemmed from playing behind the chains. Second half specifically, you score 6 points, you only get 2 field goals. Penalties kill drives, especially when your penalties are personal fouls, holdings. Sarkisian talked about it today in his press conference, said, listen, we had 4 holding penalties in the second half alone. Those 4 penalties negated 41 yards of positive offense.
Explosive run.
The entire length of the football field that is switching and flipping and flopping because of penalties, right? Texas, again, just shooting itself in the foot. And again, Quinn Ewers isn't committing these holding penalties. You know, they're moving the football with Quinn at quarterback. They did it very well against Vanderbilt. Penalties that weren't necessarily because of him created issues for the Texas offense. And again, those turnovers, those interceptions, the tips, the deflections, kind of fluky. The second one, you have to make that throw. The first one, that's just a good football play. You got to get a block up front. But I thought that Quinn played well. It was a good bounce back and find that rhythm, 17 straight. That's what you want to see. That's what you want to see from the quarterback. Yeah,
no, you're right. That was definitely the priority, it seemed, for Sark. I think their first throw that was more than 5 yards downfield was that Amari Knoblack catch. And everybody was shocked to see Amari Knoblack. Yeah. Oh, Amari Knoblack's out there. What's going on? So, yeah, I'm with you. I think, you know, for a lot of Longhorn fans who want to be critical of Quinn in that game, Quinn was part of the solution in that game. There were some problems offensively, but I think he was actually a part of the solution in the game. But we'll get into it. We'll talk about it. How about this? Give me, before we get to my man Stevie Lee here, because I want to ask Stevie Lee the same question. One compliment, one criticism. What is it for you, for the team and their performance? Give me one compliment, one criticism.
Coach, Turnovers defensively. Okay. I love it. You get the ball 4 times, 4 turnovers, 1 negated because of the penalty. Another you could count because it was a turnover on downs, but Vanderbilt had turned the ball over twice the entire season. Texas basically took it away from them 4 times. I think that's a tremendous look. 17 turnovers forced on the year. They're opportunistic, Rod and Coach. I don't think you can ask for too much more for what this defense is doing right now. Again, the short fields has just been brutal for this defense right now, and it's not their fault, right? You know, when teams get the ball in 35 going in, you know, that's pretty tough. That's a tough thing to defend. So turnovers are great. Flip side, penalties are not.
The penalties are bad. Yep, I like that. Coach, what about you?
I'd have to say the negative is that our punting needs to improve tremendously.
That's good.
We're giving up a lot of yards. And the positive is that the guys that we count on, Helms and others, are continuing to make plays and continuing to shine and continuing to make a run at all SEC receiver, all SEC tight end. You know, that's all.
I like it. No, it's good, Coach. All right, let's get to Stevie Lee here. We appreciate his time and patience. He joins us every Monday, courtesy of our good friends over at Hardgrove Roofing. That's right, folks. Hardgrove Roofing, if you are concerned about what's going on with your roof, our friends at Hardgrove Roofing encourage you to know who's on your roof, and that should be our friends over at Hardgrove Roofing. They have offices all over Louisiana, also Texas, Arkansas, even right there in Austin, Texas, which is a beautiful thing right here in Austin, Texas. You can also reach out to them for a free roof inspection. Best price you're going to get, free $99. They are the most pro burnt orange roofing company out there. They also have partnerships with lifetime Longhorn Bert Arbin, who we actually had a autograph signing with. So shout out to Bert Arbin, and lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee, who joins us every Monday, courtesy of Hardgrove Roofing. Call them today, 512-645-3202, or reach out to them online at hardgroveroofing.com. We appreciate all of their support and sponsoring the Winning Drive. Stevie Lee, what's going on? How you doing, man? How's everything?
I'm good. What's up, fellas? How are y'all?
Good, Stevie. How's it going?
Everything's well.
Yeah, man. Longhorns are 7-1. So yeah, life is good. But of course, Longhorn fans, they want the standard is the standard. They want the Longhorn fans the Longhorn team to play up to that standard. And there are some Longhorn fans that don't feel like that was the case, even though they did get a win on the road over a top 25 team. Stevie Lee, what were your thoughts about the way the Longhorns performed on the road versus Vanderbilt?
First of all, we got a W. We got a win. I did not like that we had to recover that onside kick and we gave them life just to win the game. So I didn't like that. When we need to put it in the end zone to go up by 2 scores, put it in the end zone and stay up by 2 scores. So I don't know, man. Great win. I always said that Vandy was going to be a tough out, right? I said that in the beginning of the year and people laughed at me, but, here we are. So I'm happy we got the win. It wasn't a great win. We got something to work on in this bye week.
Yeah, but I wanted to toss it to you here, Stevie, just in the sense that Vernon Broughton, we could talk about penalties and kind of some of those mental mistakes, but if that targeting doesn't occur on, the roughing the passer there, Texas has a pick 6. Kobe Black finds the end zone. He had a heck of a day, by the way. But that final score is looking at 34-17. It's a different conversation unless Vandy, of course, in those final 30 seconds or so goes down the field and scores again. But 34-17, 17-point road victory instead of, needing to recover an onside kick to preserve the victory, you're looking at a 3-score victory. That's a big win on the road over a top 25 team. What's the message to pick up on for the defense there? And it just play through the whistle, play smart, play within yourself?
I saw it in slow motion, and it felt like that Vernon could have, twisted off of the hit. It felt like that, but, I didn't play in that era, so we didn't have to worry about that. So this is a different era of football, and you just got to pull up off of it. You took a interception away from your teammate, and I'm going to be critical on D-line because I'm a D-lineman myself. So he's a good kid. He does everything right, but that right there was a little suspect that he probably could have pulled up on. But when D linemen see ball and see QB, we go eat.
No doubt. No, it was like I said, it felt like the game could have easily been a blowout or a kind of runaway win for the Longhorns. But what, in your opinion, what were a couple of plays? Because it was like 6 or 7 plays that really gave them life, as you said. In your opinion, what were the plays to you that turned the game? What were the few? I think there were like 3 or 4.
It wasn't plays that turned the game, man. It was the penalties, man. We can't start drives at 1st and 23 and 2nd and 23 and 20. Those were the now that's one thing that we really, really got to work on the offensive side of the ball is the penalties, man. We had a bunch of them against Georgia when Georgia was doing their shifts, right? You remember when Georgia was shifting and we were jumping? That put us way behind the 8 ball, man, and put us behind the chains. So starting a drive, you can have the best offense in the world, but you can't start off every other drive at 1st and 23, so or 2nd and 23, it's just that right there really frustrated me, man. Discipline, big man,
Yeah,
and it's Sark mentioned it again today. It's the penalties are happening so at so many different levels, right? Offensive line, a couple of penalties. Tight ends, 2 penalties. Gunnar Helm had 1. Amari Niblack had 1. And then you look at the running backs, they're not committing penalties, but they're not always picking up where they need to be. And as an offensive lineman, a trench guy, how frustrating is that now you have to do more because you can't trust the guy behind you to fill the gap. And that's where I think Brian Robeson made a great point. It feels like that offensive line was pressing. You have the high expectations coming in. You don't live up to it against Georgia. Now you're playing a team you should be doing well in the trenches for. You got to do more, and it backfires at times. But
one thing you just said, it's not always on the offensive line with these holding penalties. If your running back is not hitting the hole, this is deeper football. and you guys know this. If your running back is not hitting the hole that he's supposed to hit, and he try to bounce out, and you're blocking a certain way, then that defensive guy is going to pull off, and you can see the. I mean, you may be on the breastplate, but if he's pulling off and you still got that breastplate, they're going to call hold on that. So running backs also got to hit this, not exact, but the area where they need to be hitting to negate some of those holding calls too.
Yeah, because that determines your leverage, right? In terms of offensive alignment, where you blocking a guy. No, I totally get it. That's a great point.
That's the type of football I like talking about right there, man.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. No, that's what the folks are here to hear, man. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about Lole. I
Yeah.
read the D tackles in general, but Lole is one of the guys I think that surprised everyone. Alfred Collins is playing well. They're moving him around, putting him in multiple shades. Vernon Bryden, we just talked about him. Other than that, kind of, dumb penalty. I mean, he's been fantastic this year.
Yes,
really good. The D tackles, give me your thoughts about him overall. I specifically start with Lole because he's played. The coaches trust him. He's out there a lot among the guys. Him and Bill Norton, they're out there a lot considering the guys that came in as transfer portal acquisitions for Texas.
And I think that they needed to do that because of this league that we're playing in now. I mean, we did it last year with rolling people in and out, but rolling these guys in and out, keeping them fresh, is really where we're supposed to be. But when they get in there, they're actually making plays. They're not just hole fillers or spot fillers trying to get somebody else a blow. You're on scholarship too, and you probably got some NIL money too. So you go out there and play and make some plays as well, man. But no, the top 4 defensive tackles, man, I'm looking at them right here. They're all doing really well, and just keep fighting and keep playing, and everybody else will fill in, man. I'm liking the defensive line play, and you're right. Vernon has been great all year. He needs to get this that what do they call it? Personal foul out of his head and just move forward. You guys correct me, am I wrong? Does he have to sit out first half of Florida?
Yep.
Yeah. So those guys got to step up for sure against Florida until he gets back in the second half.
Hey, can I get your thoughts on one other front 7 guy, Trey Moore? Felt like he was a little bit more active in this game. He had the big pass deflection, close to, the Vanderbilt owned defensive or end zone there. But a guy that statistically may not be popping off, but he certainly has been making his presence felt over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I've been wanting to watch him in the beginning of the season, and Saturday, it really looked good, like it was coming around. If you can't get to the quarterback, get your hands up, man. And so that's what he did, forcing a turnover. I think these guys on the defensive line, they're getting better and better as the weeks go on. Remember, we're in the beginning of the year, we were complaining they weren't getting to the quarterback enough. Well, here we go. It's starting to come, and they're starting to get more comfortable with each other and how each other play and how each other fill gaps. And now it's starting to come along to where they're going to be playing free and just going, But what I am concerned about, I know y'all talked about what was it, the negative and the positive? Mm-hmm. Man, my negative right now, man, is we got to get something going with this offensive line. They got the strength, they got the hands, they got everything, but I think they're getting nervous. They're playing in their head right now. And I tell my wife all the time, just get out of your head. It's scary in there. Because these guys are locking in. They're getting tunnel vision on one guy and not watching the linebackers trying to field. And so they got to lock in on one guy, but also help each other on these linebackers. And because some of these guys running in full speed, and these running backs can't pick that up as well. We got to bump them to drip throw them off to help. We got to play as a cohesive offensive line, and I didn't see that much this game.
That's a good point. That's why those delayed blitzes are working. Those delayed pass rushes are working. You're right about that. Good point. Let me ask you this, Steve, before we let you go. What are your thoughts about how Quinn played? It's been mixed reviews from some Longhorn fans on Quinn. What are your thoughts personally about the Texas quarterback?
Oh, man. Yeah.
That's somebody who know. There you go.
Yeah, I got you. Was it Rish? I got you, Rish. I will. So golly, man, Quinn he's the guy. He's always gonna be Quinn. The deep ball still not there for me. He did hit a couple of them. Man, I don't know, guys. I don't know. I like the kid. I like the kid a lot. He got us here where we are right now. And he had a good game, man. He really had a good game, really good game managing game. But when you look out at all the yards he got, it was a 5-yard pass, and that receiver got the other 30 yards. You know what I mean? So it was out in the bubbles for these guys, but those yards still count for his yards. So on paper, he's looking great. Am I wrong, guys?
No, you're right. I mean,
yeah. On paper, his numbers and yards are looking great, but it's just these easy check down passes that's getting him there. And we're going to need to test these defenses deep, and they just know that he can't get it out there. They all know that, man. I've been saying this. I don't want to talk like this about the kid, but I got to be honest, man. I got to, that's all I can be is honest. Yeah.
I will say, if you look at Vanderbilt early on, you're right about that. They played 2 high safeties and some deep safeties early on. Sark talked about this. As the game went on, though, they got more aggressive, and that's when Texas could have challenged them, but by then Texas was in a different mode offensively. But you're right. That's the big complaint from Longhorn fans. They think that Quinn is kind of a check down Charlie, as we used to call it in the league. It's a check down Charlie guy. He's going to check it down. We just got to make sure you check it down. We got to rally to the football, and that's not going to beat Georgia. I think that's what Longhorn fans are thinking. That's not going to beat Georgia. But that, can that can actually still end up being a very productive offense. But I will admit, it makes you predictable. It does make you predictable. I agree. That's kind of where we are in terms of. But it didn't hurt you versus Vanderbilt in my opinion. But it will hurt you versus better competition.
And we got some tough games coming up, man. I mean, we got Arkansas at Arkansas. I mean, the most important game is the next game, right, guys?
Amen, brother.
Okay. All right. Thank you for saying that. But we got Arkansas at Arkansas, and we got A&M at A&M.
Hey, now.
And those 2 outs ain't going to be easy either.
Hey, now.
So we got to tighten up this offensive line. We got to tighten up the quarterback play. And quite honestly, we got to tighten up the run game and play calling. I'm gonna put that on Coach. If he was on this podcast, I would still say it.
Okay.
I'm gonna put that on Coach. We got to tighten up the play calling, and defense doing great in my opinion, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
They're doing good. There's some penalties that we got to clean up, but those guys are playing like dogs. So I know Bob, Coach Shipley. I mean, you're an offensive guy, and you probably like Stevie. You don't know the hell he's talking about. But it's just that's what I'm seeing, man. We're gonna have to come out better on offense and quicker on offense, especially against Arkansas and A&M.
Yeah, that's a good point about quicker on offense. I believe that's every SEC game Texas has had a basically kind of a first quarter turnover, right? I believe every SEC game so far. So the fast start, you're right. They still had a faster start versus Vanderbilt, but still you like to cut out some of those self-inflicted wounds. All right, last question here before we let you go, Stevie. Last question here. What is your top priority in the bye week? If you are Sark, you control it all. What's your number one emphasis in the bye week? What are you getting done? We're going to get something done. What you getting done?
I'm getting down in the trenches, man. We running inside drill all day. We're going to try to dig out these big defensive linemen and get some yards on offense, man. And we're going to switch up the snap count. We're gonna try to get these guys disciplined. If they jump off sides, if they got a holding penalty, you got a half a mile run or something like that, man. It's some discipline that needs to happen on that offensive line, because coming out behind the sticks is not going to cut it in the thick part of the SEC and the playoffs. Those small mistakes is going to get you kicked out of the playoffs early. So we gotta hammer that down right now.
Is there a way to kind of replicate that live speed look in terms of preventing holding or whatnot on the offense side of the ball without going full speed in practice? Is that the only remedy for trench guys?
Yeah, man. It's full speed. You got to go full speed to first, so they'll go out and practice. I guess tomorrow is Tuesday, and Wednesday it's inside drills, full speed, and you hope for the best. I know it's the middle of the season, and then you pull back on Thursday and give the guys some time off, and then go into your regular game week, next week. But you got to dig into this inside drill to get these running backs some space, and teach these running backs to hit the area where they need to hit. And these receivers are downfield blocking, so I like that about them. But this O-line has got to get it. They're good. I know they're good. They just got to get it together cohesively together. So
yes, it feels like people now the paranoia has switched from Quinn to the O-line.
Yeah,
it was like it was all like, oh man, everybody's paranoid about Quinn and Quinn's regression, and now it feels like everybody's just kind of freaked out about pass protection, and that's the O-line period, because the run game is not necessarily getting the push up front that you want in the run game either.
Now, in the same breath, we still crying from a yacht.
Yes, of course. This is all
right.
Yes.
In the same.
No, of course. Yeah, this is first world problem.
We lost one game by 15 points. Come on,
first
now.
World problem. Yes.
Yeah. No question. Yeah. So we're still good. Longhorn Nation all the way. I'm a lifetime Longhorn, and all this is just love that I'm talking about. But those are small critiques that I want to get taken. Well, the run game is a big critique for me. The run game and pass protection is a big critique for me. But let's get that done, and we're going to be perfectly fine.
Yeah, because we're talking about the standard is the standard. Anybody
no
who
question.
talks like, hey, why y'all complaining about how good the team is? Like, because the standard is the standard, okay? That is it, period. We won 11 games. I won 11 games 2 years in a row with you, Stevie, and we didn't meet the damn standard. And people were like, yeah, see, that team sucks. And you know what? They were kind of right, because we didn't beat Oklahoma. So OU sucks, and if we lose to them, then we suck. All right, so the standard is the standard. So don't be talking to me about, oh man, why y'all in a bad mood because Texas, won a game by 3 points. Hey, that don't matter, because the standard is the standard. Play to the standard, then we won't have nothing to talk about on here. We'll just come on here and then we'll be quiet. But until then, damn it, we're gonna come on here and talk about how they ain't met the standard. So thank you, Stevie. I appreciate that.
No problem, man. This is great, dude. I appreciate y'all.
All right, Stevie. Now we'll talk to you down the line. That's lifetime logo of Stevie Lee. Appreciate you, brother. All right, Stevie Lee brought to you courtesy of our friends over at Hardgrove Roofing. Thank you very much to our friends over at Hardgrove Roofing for sponsoring the Winning Drive. Offices all over Louisiana, Arkansas, and of course the great state of Texas, including Austin, Texas. Hardgrove Roofing will take care of all of your roofing needs, and the most pro burnt orange roofing company out there. Got partnerships with Lifetime Longhorn Bert Arbin, Lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee as well. So folks, if you want to support the burnt orange, you want to support Hardgrove Roofing, and they'll support you. You can get a free roof inspection right now from Hardgrove Roofing. And trust me, folks, you can't get better than that. Free 99. 512-645-3202. That is the number. Or you can reach out to them via their website at hardgroveroofing.com. We appreciate their support for sponsoring the Winning Drive. All right, there you go. All right, so let's get back to it, gentlemen. Let's get some of the questions, and then I want to get to some of the comments that Sark had today from his Monday media availability. CJ was there on the spot, and CJ, you actually asked a question that got an interesting response from Sark. I'm trying to think Sark looks forward to your question, CJ. I think he looks forward to
about that.
I think he does. You asked some nice, it's about ball. Your son's about ball a lot of times. I think he enjoys your questions, but his response actually was pretty interesting. So we'll get to that too coming up here. But first, a question here. Kabir says, I saw a stat that ranks Quinn 75 out of 75 in Power 5 QB average depth per attempt. Maybe talking about depth of target. Potentially said, does this stat matter, and what does it indicate? Does it indicate a problem? Okay, so I think I've seen the same stat, and because CJ does a great job, and CJ, you should check out his Twitter because he's got some great statistical breakdowns up there. But I did see that his average depth of target is hovering around somewhere around 5.9?
Yep.
Is that where it is?
5.9.
Yes, so that is, and that's so average depth of target, basically, I believe is what Kabir is talking about. Thank you, Kabir. We appreciate that. So that's how far down the field his average target is when he has a passing attempt. I will say that I've talked about this actually on my radio show. Patrick Mahomes right now has a very, very low average depth of target. It's actually probably the lowest among starting quarterbacks in the NFL because it has become a yak offense, an offense purely built on yak. You probably have better stats about this, CJ, but he had nearly 80% of those passing yards in that Vanderbilt game with yak yards after the catch, opportunities for receivers. That's basically where the offense is now. Now, is that a problem? It's not. It wasn't against Vanderbilt. Could it be a problem against more elite competition? Yes, but because I think it makes you a little predictable. But ultimately, that's always been the strength of Quinn's game. He's never been a vertical deep ball passer, in my opinion. He's been a short intermediate passer. So it's compatible with the strength. But do you think it's a problem, guys? Is it a problem for you?
Coach?
I don't know.
You don't like it?
It's a weird spot.
You don't like it?
Yeah, it really is.
It's weird because it almost is completely dependent upon the defense, right? If Texas plays at Georgia, if they play in Oregon, if they play in Ohio State, someone with that comparable speed and talent on the outside, you're not going to see those runs break free, and you're going to have to rely on a quarterback to hit plays down the field in tight spaces. Not seen that a lot from Quinn so far this year. On the flip side, and this was the entire point against Vanderbilt, and it does feel like, folks kind of figured out what average distance of target, about 48 hours ago? This wasn't a big conversation after Michigan.
Yeah, exactly.
His Michigan average distance of target was 6.0.
Yeah.
It's not like it was a completely different Quinn Ewers that we saw at the beginning of the year. But now that this offense is in a rut, they got to find some sort of statistic, in fact, to be mad at. And right now it is this average distance of target. And listen, this was the approach from Vanderbilt. Defensively, it was make Texas earn every yard. Don't let the big explosive play be what beats them. And Texas and Quinn Ewers early in the game specifically said, yeah, if you're going to give me 15 yards to Gunnar Helm off the flat in a check down situation, I'm going to take that. Yeah. I've Jaden Blue with 8 yards of space in front of him out of the backfield. I'm going to take that. I tweeted out some still shots from plays that Texas, kind of completed to. First play here, they got numbers to the top. Two blocking, 2 guys up at the top. It's a completion. You get 7 yards. Now you set up 1st and goal from the 3. I think you take that no matter what. Again, better blocking. You probably walk into the end zone here because, again, you got 2 to block 2. That's normally exactly what you want when you have these quick screens. This is a -3 average distance of target, goes for 7 yards. I don't think you can complain with that. Of course, that's the design of the play. The next one here, you're going to see it on a 3rd and 2, I believe. Trey Wisner, wide open on the wheel route. He makes this guy miss. He goes for 18 yards. Who's complaining? He's getting 20 yards on 3rd down, right? That's a good play. You could, of course, throw it 5 yards down the field to either of these guys crossing over the middle. That's not going to be the down the field, catching momentum, make a guy miss and go for 20 yards here. Next play, again, this is a lot of space. If you're going to give Texas that amount of space to the field, you should take that every single time it's given to you. You know why? Because this play specifically goes for 31. DeAndre Moore makes this linebacker to the middle of the field here miss, makes him look pretty foolish, goes for 31 yards. You set up a big play. Now you're in the red zone. Easy pitch and catch. You read the leverage. You read what the defenders give you, and you take that. That's the job of a quarterback. Take care of the football and put your team in a position to put points on the board. That's exactly what Quinn Ewers did on this drive specifically. And then this next play again, Gunnar Helm, this is considered a check down to the field. Just if you're going to give your tight end or your running back this much space on this next screen right here, I mean, come on. Seriously. It's 2nd and 16. Get yourself into a position to be 3rd and manageable, 3rd and short. Gunnar Helm picks up 15 yards. It's 3rd and 1. And that's what led to that Trey Wisner catch and run for 18 on that very next play earlier that we just showed. But these are considered checkdowns. These are considered the short yards. Those 2 plays on 2nd and 16 and 3rd and 2, if you're going to get 35 yards on those 2 specifically, what's the issue? But the issue is When you play teams that take that away or at least have better defenders, that's when the frustration stems in, when the offense doesn't move the ball due to missed tackles or big plays after the catch. I understand it, but take what you can get. That's what Quinn Ewers did early in that game. And again, you can't go broke taking profit. And when Quinn's taking profit here and you're throwing for 200-plus yards and 3 touchdowns on 17 straight completions, what's the issue? Why are folks mad?
Because they're stressing about what could have been and what is going to be potentially. Right, like you said, when they face Georgia again in the college football playoff or SEC title game, or who knows, when they face the Aggies down in Aggie land, what could be? So I'm with you. This has always been Quinn's game, guys. This has been Quinn. Recently complaining that he wasn't great at throwing the deep ball. He improved somewhat at throwing the deep ball, but his game has always been the short to intermediate passing game. You know what's different though? Now, know what's different, CJ? Arch is different.
Yeah,
that's all that's different. The only thing that's different is this is the same Quinn we were dealing with before, but the difference is now there's an arch now that has been injected into the equation.
That's that was a conversation I was having earlier today with a couple buddies. Is this frustration or conversation about Quinn and the checkdowns? Yeah. That's not a thing, but we did see Arch huck it deep and have
exactly.
And that's where. I get the give and take and the positives, the pros and cons of each guy. Quinn's going to be methodical. He's going to protect the rock. Arch, he had the 5 touchdown performance, but in that game where he threw for 2 picks and 2 touchdowns, neither of those picks were pretty. One of them arguably could have been caught. The other one he threw in a triple coverage basically down the sideline, and that was just trying to force a play. Quinn doesn't force plays all too often. And Coach, to ask you this, how do you balance that if you're Quinn? Is it just taking what the defense can give you? Is there an emphasis in practice to read from 1 to 2 and find ways to throw it down the field? How do you find these explosive plays that are kind of there with Arch, but not necessarily as often with Quinn?
Yeah, I think that's something that Sark and the staff just go through week to week and try to find explosive plays potentially, and just have him read from the explosive play down. A lot of times you read deep to shallow, or obviously you can read shallow to deep, but if you're trying deep ball, you look and see what's there. But I think it's just Sark and the staff just trying to put together some opportunities for him, to get the ball down the field. And I appreciate the fact that he doesn't try to force balls in as much as maybe some other quarterbacks, maybe Arch. I don't know that I've seen him enough to know that, but I think it's just something that Sark and the staff just try to put together for him, to get some explosive plays.
Yeah, no, it's I think Longhorn fans are just foreshadowing that it will be a problem. And they're stressing about it potentially will be a problem. But right now, except the offense the problem right now, actually, with the offense, to me, more than the passing game, is more pass protection and the run game. It's more about, I agree with Stevie Lee on that. It's more about the offensive line. How about this one from Leonard House? He says, quote, let's just give Jerry Gibson the ball and run inside zone. They obviously don't trust Jerry Gibson, coach, right? I think we saw him for 1 snap versus Georgia. And they put Kobe Black out there in the middle of the damn game get critical reps. They trust Kobe Black. But I was just saying, for Jerry Gibson as a young guy, I wouldn't expect them to trust him much, but they don't trust him enough yet, right? That's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I think that's obvious. I thought we would see more of Jarek Saturday, but we didn't.
Yep. My man CB, how about this one? Thank you, CB, for the question. Is Cam Williams a liability at this point? He alone has like 11 penalties. Yeah, according to Pro Football Focus, thank you, CB, he does have 11 penalties. And he's not alone. Kevin Banks has got 5, according to them. I think DJ Campbell's got 5 as well. Jake Majors has 3. They've been accumulating a lot of penalties on the offensive line. What are your thoughts, Coach, about Cam Williams at this point? The unsportsmanlike conduct one was probably obviously the most disappointing one. Holding, I think they got to get acclimated to the type of officiating in the SEC compared to the Big 12. What are your thoughts about Cam Williams specifically?
Well, here's what they're going to call every time, and it's something that Stevie Lee was talking about earlier. It's okay to grab what we call the handlebars, grab the shoulder pads and, move your guy that way. But I've had officials tell me they're not going to call that. But when they see the guy trying to get away and you grabbing his jersey and stretching his jersey and he's reaching out trying to get away, they're going to call that every time. And so really, I mentioned this last week, and I really do mean it. I think that Cam at times gets lazy. And, when you're holding, as we talked about last week, in my opinion, it's typically, my research has shown that it's typically because you're out of position, and you haven't brought your feet with you or whatever. Of course, there are times when a defensive lineman will put a move on you and force you to have to be out of position. But most of the time, it's just because the offensive lineman is being a little lazy and not bringing his feet with him, and just trying to hang on for dear life until that guy tries to get away, and the official sees the jersey being stretched and a guy's arm being reached out and he can't get it. They're going to call that every time. And so you just have to know, as an offensive lineman, you've got to let it go. You just have to let that go. It's not worth the penalties we've been getting.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I didn't realize he had 11 penalties, so I looked it up either. So CB, I appreciate that. We have a super chat from my Micah ID. Hope I got that right. My Cal ID. I appreciate that. I don't know what the question was. If you have a question, please throw it out there. We'll answer as many of them as we can. All right, CJ, I want to get to your question you asked Sark, because it was actually related to the topic we were discussing earlier about the average depth of target, the passing game as well. And my man Matthew will get this right. Thank you, Matthew, behind the scenes. But you asked him a question. I can kind of let you set it up because I think the question is in the audio here. But it's you asking Sark about the passing game specifically.
Vanderbilt, nearly half of the passes attempted were, within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. I know the screen game has been a big part of your offense, but how do you ensure that there's a balance vertically down the field? Is that reads, progressions?
Tell them to move up, and then we'll throw it over them. They played man-to-man on one snap that wasn't in the red area. We threw a touchdown pass over their head. Tell them to move up.
Yeah. I mean,
Pretty straight up.
What do you think of that, Coach? Move up.
Yeah, well, he's obviously showing his hand there a little bit, saying, they're going to keep doing that as long as the DBs are playing off.
And again, that goes back to what we talked about earlier, for just take what they give you and let the guys work afterward. And I thought that's what was interesting about the Georgia game is, they played man up. They played press coverage. They didn't allow for those route wins to occur down the field. And when they were, it was up to the offensive line and Quinn to get the ball down there, and they couldn't do it. So when you're out-athleted in that regard, what's the remedy? How do you move the football? But, I wanted to get an idea because it felt like, Texas threw the ball down the field probably 4 times. One of them was complete. You throw it to Ryan Wingo in the end zone, incomplete, but I thought it was a good idea to go to that route, a little boomerang corner route, a good play by the defensive back. Another one was in the 4th quarter, I believe, the Silas Bolden 2nd and 20, which you could talk about
3rd and 20
situational shots. I thought the 2nd and 1 coming out of the 4th quarter flip at midfield, that's when you take it deep. You're 2nd and 2 at midfield. You just come out of the timeout. Huck that thing deep. Let's see what your best deep ball play call is and put the points on the board. That's your shot right there, because you can 3rd down. You can go find yourself, and you can find 2 yards on 3rd down. If you don't get it there, you're at midfield. You can trust your defense, go for it again. And what Texas ended up doing was 2nd and 2. You run the football, you get tackled for 1 yard. 3rd and 1, you run it on the outside. You get a tight end holding. You're back to 3rd and 10. You get sacked, and now you're punting, and you never even looked to go deep. So you have to find ways, if you're Texas, to just allow defenses the threat of the deep pass. Because, again, there's just not that right now. Amari Niblack, the late crossing route. I like that. Coach, I like that, Rod. I know you like that, but, where's more of that? How do you get more of that? A big play to Jatavian Sanders we found basically every single week at points last year was the deep crossing routes or the deep return routes. Where's that been? And I don't know if it's Quinn. I don't know if it's the offensive line. I don't know if it's Sarkisian not wanting to put that stress and emphasis or put the ball in harm's way. I don't know, but it's got to be somewhere. You got to have it. And right now, Coach, he did kind of tip his hand. He's like, you know what? If teams are going to continue to play 7 guys back in coverage, all at the sticks, you know what? We're going to have to take what we can get, and that's kind of where the Texas offense is right now. On top of that, I know every single opposing team has heard one thing for Texas coming into this season. This is the most speed Texas has had, and it's offense under a Sarkisian team, right? And what does that mean? Well, they're going to take the ball deep, right? Bond, Golden, Cook, Bolden, all these guys, Wingo. They can get the ball vertically down the field. Well, you have to game plan against that somehow, and that's what teams are doing. You just got to find that balance right now, and I don't think there is a solution at the moment, but that's why Sarkisian's a good play caller. He's got to figure that out.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting how they've abandoned those plays that made Sanders such a great tight end.
Yeah,
didn't make him, but it actually was showcasing him.
Yes.
We have a tight end playing at pretty much the same level, in my opinion. I don't understand why you just abandoned that.
I agree.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think if the running game actually was a little bit more potent, you would get teams who are coming down just to stop the running game, putting more guys in the box, and they would also, I think, be trying to take away some of the short, quick, intermediate stuff. But because Texas doesn't have a running game, I think teams are deciding, you know what? Yeah, if you can beat me with your extension of the running game, we'll just come up and we'll continue to rally to the football. And you can make the argument in the last 3 weeks that it's worked out, at least because the offense has not been its most kind of lethal version of itself. That quick strike that you see from the Sark offenses, and that's what they're trying to take away.
Yeah. Take
away Sark's quick strike, because the quick strike leads to the Sark run, and the Sark run gets you blown out. And they never had the run versus Vandy. They were close, but they never had that run that separated them from Vandy and put them up by like 21 points. They never had the run. Vandy was able to avoid the run. It was mostly because these self-inflicted wounds, right there. It was right in the second quarter. That 23-yard punt that hurt them. The 3 and outs, not being able to cash in on the turnovers, the interception, the forced fumble.
The missed block by Blue on 3rd down. That was the other one.
That was big. You're off. Remember those at that 4th drive of the game in the second quarter. Offensive line killed you. Cam Williams penalty. Kelvin Banks had a penalty on that drive, and you had a sack on that drive, the 4th drive of the game, and that killed the drive. So you had a chance to blow this team out, and you missed that opportunity. And that's what happens. Like Pet Cemetery, man. These teams, they come back to life on you, and that's what Vanderbilt did against Texas.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff there. We got another question here from this one comes from Gary. What happened in the second half? Sark and Ewers need to adjust in the second half. Coach, I'll throw it to you. I thought Vandy, getting back to CJ's point about them playing a lot of too high and deep safeties in the first half. Second half, they started to realize gambling with blitzing was working for them, and they just started to blitz more. And then I think for them, I don't think Quinn and Texas handled the blitz very well, or as well as they started to blitz more throughout the game. That was one thing I noticed in the second half.
Yeah. I think that probably could have been handled better. I think it's one of those things. It's like, we talk about so much. It's a chess match, and at halftime, you're going to make some changes, and we have to be able to adjust to that. And we just didn't. We did not adjust to it. We didn't hit hot routes, in my opinion. There were just things maybe I thought we'd see that 6th lineman we were talking about, Rod to help with protection, or maybe another tight end to stay in and help with protection. But we didn't really see that.
Yeah.
This is the question everybody wants an answer to, CJ, from Odin Horns. Did CJV hook up in Nashville? That's what everybody wants to know.
It was a business trip. No,
Come on.
Nashville is a very fun city, though. So getting to see where Broadway was, and every bar there is about 5 stories tall with different live music on every single level. It's a crazy city if you've never been. That was my first time, but I also put into perspective how long of a walk those Vandy students had to make with the goalposts on their shoulder after the Alabama win. That's a 2.5 mile walk. I mean, that is a long trek with that big old goalpost on your shoulder. Oh man, I'm sure some of them had to jump into the river just to cool off right after. But no, that's a really cool city, and the campus was pretty as well.
Nice.
They're doing some work to the stadium, so we didn't get to see that in its glory. We got to hear the whole the boat horn. I don't know how often y'all heard it on the game broadcast, but every third down they got that big old horn that just goes. The place was rocking. It was
nice. Cool. So they're building a football culture now.
They're trying. They might need to build a statue for Diego Pavia, to be honest. I mean, that's a heck of a ball player right there.
He's a dude. Doubt. Well, I mean, guys, Coach, what was your thoughts about the plays that Diego Pavia made in that game? Because there were a few where he's magic. He just makes magic happen on a football field.
He is a difference maker. And you look at the guy and you go, but he just has that between his ears. He's a winner. He knows how to make things happen. He knows how to make plays. He's athletic. I was very impressed with the way that he played and impressed with the way that he kept his team in the game and the way that he handled the pressure.
Yep. No, he didn't. Texas defense, I mean, that's that argument. You can argument to be made that that's the best defense in the country. And he made some plays against that defense early on, that scramble and that throw, which a lot of luck on that touchdown throw late in the game that he had that it was tipped by LaFau and went through the hands of Jelani McDonald. But like I said, sometimes you make your own luck. He certainly does that. Let's thank our friends over at Duck Camp before we continue here. Duck Camp, they are sponsoring the winning drive, so we appreciate them. They produce premium outdoor goods for the outdoor spirit and all of us. Duck Camp is dedicated to providing the best outdoor goods so you can outdoor good, whether you're an avid hunter or you prefer fishing or you're like me and you like to hang out around the campsite, enjoying the great outdoors, whatever way you like to enjoy the great outdoors. Trust me, Duck Camp is the brand for you. Duck Camp is a brand that understands the culture and of outdoor living and the good times and good friends that come along with living an outdoor lifestyle. Check out their new fall selection. Go to duckcamp.com. That's duckcamp.com. And you can see their new fall selection today. I've already ordered some items there, so I'm looking forward to representing Duck Camp with that new fall stuff. And go check it out for yourself before it's all sold out. That's duckcamp.com. Thank you for sponsoring the winning drive. All right, we got a couple of super chats that I want to get to. Ryan Nelson says, have fun with the night game at Williams-Brice Stadium. Shane Beamer with a week to perform. Beamer ball will be fun in full force. I don't know, Ryan. Thank you, Ryan, for the super chat. I appreciate that.
In regards to Texas A&M, perhaps I think that
maybe
Aggies have to go out to South Carolina next week. If I'm not mistaken,
you're right about that. That's got to be what it is. Ryan, thank you for the super chat. Listen, the Aggies are the only team in the SEC right now that control their own fate. I mean, that's after beating LSU and doing it in impressive fashion, having to take Connor Wigman out. It is worth discussing, gentlemen. Once again, the likelihood of Texas facing Texas A&M with a lot on the line, potential SEC title hopes on the line for both teams, maybe. What are your thoughts, Coach, about it? The Texas A&M rekindling of that rivalry with potential SEC title hopes on the line. If the Aggies take care of business and if the Longhorns continue to take care of business, we could be talking about one of the biggest games of the year, if not the biggest game of the year in the SEC between Texas and Texas A&M. Yeah,
there's no doubt it could be. If they both continue to win and go into this game at a 10-1 mark,
wow,
do they play each other in the SEC championship as well? If they both went out, will they play back-to-back weeks?
Could be. I think the tiebreakers. I got to go check tiebreakers and all that, but it is a possibility. There's no doubt, especially if they're 10-1. Guys, the Longhorns and the Aggies have only had double-digit win seasons in the same season once in the history of the rivalry. That does not happen a lot. So if we are trending in that direction, this is historic in a lot of ways. And that's like you said, Coach. So if that's the case, both are going to be ranked as high as they've ever been ranked when Texas and Texas A&M play. Got to go back and look at the last time they both had double-digit win seasons. And then on top of that, SEC title hopes on the line, as you point out, Coach, the scenario where they could end up playing back-to-back, depending on who ends up winning the SEC title game and how the rest of the season breaks down. There's no way anybody envisioned or foreshadowed the rekindling of the rivalry having that much on the line. We could be talking about the first game that for Texas A&M since they decided to end the rivalry might be the biggest game in the history of the rivalry.
God, could you imagine?
It's got that potential.
I think the cheapest ticket's now up to about $1,050. So if you don't have it yet, good luck. But man, it's going to be so exciting when that game is back because it will dictate who ends up in Atlanta, and it likely will end up dictating who gets a home game for the college football playoff, right? And that's going to be really, really special because this game's been online for 13 years, right? We've not gotten to dictate who's the better team. You know, it's all been hypotheticals and what ifs and fantasies of what would happen if these two teams played. Now, both teams top 10, and they're finally going to meet. I mean, this is awesome. It's what college football's for, that regional, holding over the head of your neighbor is going to be awesome. And I love it. It's going to be so great for college football. It's going to be a blast.
Josh says, took a loan out to get a ticket. Wife is so pissed. She's an Aggie. There you go, Josh. Hey, you got to be there, man. It's like I said, it's shaping up to be epic. We'll see if everything kind of goes right now the way it's trending. But there's some people who believe that's the likeliest outcome. Texas and Texas A&M facing off with both of them having just one loss on the season. We shall see. Randy Jones says, how many more times does Aggie change quarterbacks? They went back to Marcel Reed. The first time was because of injury, right? The Connor Wigman, they changed Marcel because of the injury to Connor Wigman, and then they went back to Connor Wigman. Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap. Yeah, I mean, it happens. I think, do we think they stay, Coach? They stay with Marcel Reed? They stay with him now after that big win over LSU?
Oh, yeah.
The guy?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you wouldn't risk it, man. That was too much momentum. That was a magical moment there at Aggie for the Aggies down there in Aggie land. So I think Marcel Reed has kind of won the populace over there. Super chat here from A. Mars. Thank you, A. Mars. He says, I've always laughed at people who think this, but could be setting up future opponents with today's game planning. Yeah, maybe the short passing game is all coach kind of a rope-a-dope. And they're going to rope-a-dope until we get to that Texas A&M game, and then we're going to let them bombs fly. And we're going to be dropping bombs like over Baghdad kind of thing. Is that what we're looking at over here?
I don't think so. I think the staff is doing everything he can do to win each and every game from week to week.
That'd be some next level chess right there.
It would be, Rod. Who knows? Maybe the noise out of Austin, the noise that we're talking about here, the noise that's kind of just swarming this Texas team right now is, it's check down Quinn, check down, screen, bubble, sack, check down. And that's what teams start to pregame for or like prepare for.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that could be the case, but I don't think it's by design that Texas is throwing it short this often. Again, it's what defenses want Texas to do, and they're playing into it. Yep.
No, I totally agree. I mean, Texas, you made a great point about the reputation. Texas having the fastest wide receiving core in the country, and the Isaiah Bond impact, the Xavier Worthy, AD Mitchell impact. I think that also, if it's a narrative that teams are buying into, that also feeds the narrative. That was part of the offseason. Like, man, Texas had elite speed last year, and they couldn't hit the deep ball with these guys. And now Texas still has the elite speed, and yet still has not opened up the offense. And I know Sark loves the deep ball. We know this about him. He when he first got here, we were one of the most criticized elements of his coaching style was that he wouldn't stop throwing the deep ball. Remember, Coach, when he kept saying, he's like, I'm going to throw the deep ball regardless of what y'all think. It's a critical part of our offense. And then he finally started to come to the realization that, okay, we're not good at it, so he stopped throwing it. Did you observe that as well, Coach?
Oh, yeah.
Early on
No
in Sark's tenure?
Yeah, no doubt.
So I think he wants to throw the deep ball. Guys, the only reason he's not throwing is because they're not necessarily great at it, and it will be forcing it, and the defense is not giving it to you, or the defense isn't able to be exposed in that way. So we shall see. We shall see how things work out.
You got to put the other quarterback in if you want to throw the deep ball, because he's not afraid to throw
it. That's true. He did when the first game. What did he have? 10 deep balls and that
11 or 12. Yeah, it was up there.
It was a bunch of. He kept launching it deep. I know Longhorn fans want to see that, and I think that will be a big part of the offense when Arch is the starting quarterback. But we got to accept Quinn. That was never a natural strength of Quinn's, and although he got better at it, I still don't think necessarily right now it may not be the identity of the Texas offense for the time being. All right, getting back to a couple of the questions here. This one comes from LL. How come they could not execute inside zone if that many men were deep? Texas offensive line couldn't push Vandy defensive line?
That's the big question. I don't know. I don't know. I actually just did the numbers real quick. Texas' last 10 rush attempts that span the final 4 possessions offensively in the second half. 34 yards on 10 attempts. 23 of those yards came on the Jaden Blue 3rd and 7 run in the red zone, going into the red zone whenever Texas kicked a field goal. So if you take away that run on 3rd and 7 against an unsuspecting defense on true run downs, Texas averaged 1.22 yards per attempt against Vanderbilt in the run game in the second half. I know a lot of folks want to look to Quinn as the issue in the second half. Well, when you're constantly committing penalties and you don't have a run game, hard to find more blame to go around than what's going on up front, right? That's not necessarily Ewers there that's holding and not creating run lanes there, but that's got to improve, and that's been an issue this year. It's not been pretty for that Texas offensive line in terms of creating big running lanes for these running backs.
Yeah, in the last 3 weeks, it's been even worse. Last 3 weeks, you're 99th in yards per rush, 110th in rushing yards per game in the last 3 weeks. So it's trending the wrong way, the offensive line. So it's perfect time for a bye week.
Yep.
Because I kind of go back with Stevie. I think a lot of the issues now are stemming from the offensive line, pass protection and run blocking. Coach, what are your thoughts about that? It among the concerns that you have, I think the offensive line is at the top of my list.
Well, I wonder if SEC, if maybe we have underrated the defensive line play of the SEC.
Could be.
They're certainly, Vanderbilt certainly better than I thought they were going to be up front. And I don't understand how a guy like Kyle Flood can have a group of guys who were talking about winning the Offensive Line of the Year award, and now they're the weakness on our football team. That just doesn't make sense. I think to me, you go back and I would need to do a deep dive into it, but go back and look and see how people are playing us differently than they were 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, there's definitely some trends that are like Vanderbilt, right? Vanderbilt had a really good game plan defensively. They basically just took a couple of concepts that worked for them from the Georgia game plan. The cornerback blitz, right? You take the 6 plays, 4 sacks, 2 tipped interceptions. Those are 6 big plays for the Vanderbilt defense. They sent a cornerback blitz or a slot cornerback blitz on 4 of the 6 plays. They had an A-gap blitz on 2 of those 6 plays. So essentially, you had an A-gap blitz and or a cornerback blitz on 5 of those 6 big plays. That is not a coincidence. They found something that they liked that worked on film that they saw versus Georgia, and the A-gap blitz, cornerback blitz, delayed rushers were among them. So I agree with you, Coach. I think, to me, the Vanderbilt performance by the O-line actually more disturbing than the Georgia one. Because the Georgia one, you just got whipped, and it's okay. Kirby Smart's the best coach potentially in college football. Not potentially, he is. In college football, he's a defensive-minded coach. They got 5 stars at every level of the defense. They got first rounders, second rounders, third rounders, fourth rounders all over that defense. And they beat you with a 3-man rush, a 4-man rush. They beat you with a 5-man blitz. They beat you with a 6-man blitz. They beat you with a 0 blitz. They beat you one-on-one. They beat you with everything. It wasn't just one specific concept that really, exposed you. Vanderbilt was different. Vanderbilt, it was more scheme that beat you. They found out they struggled with the cornerback blitz. Remember, Sark said they didn't pick it up in the Georgia game, led to the strip fumble. And I guess Vanderbilt was like, you know what? Let's work it. And they ran it over and over again. Sometimes it blew up in their face. The DeAndre Moore touchdown reception, that was the wheel route. That was a cornerback blitz. They came out, and then everybody was out of position. Everybody was out of leverage. It ran for an easy touchdown. But they kept going. They kept up with it because what, Coach? They saw something. They're like, no, it's going to work. We got to keep up. We got to keep up with it, but it's going to pay dividends, and it did. So that's why it was more disturbing for me, Coach, that Vandy found some schemes that were able to expose Texas. Georgia just whipped shit, and that's okay. I've been whipped before too. I get up, I'm ready to fight again the next week. But that was different what Vandy did. That was a little bit different.
Yeah,
that's a good point, Rod. I agree.
Yep. All right. How about this one? Tex-Mex Horn 94. We lost to the premier program. We lost to the premier program in Georgia and won an ugly game to a ranked Vanderbilt who beat Bama by playing into their style of game. And some fans are acting like we lost to Kansas. Hey, ain't no shame in losing to Kansas anymore, by the way. We'll throw that out there. Hey, Coach, Coach once told me that wins are like ex-girlfriends. The ugly ones count too. So
yeah, that's right. Every time. A whole lot better than we'd be if we were licking our wounds after a loss to a Vanderbilt team. Ooh. But you know what? A top 25 team, CJ said it at the start, you beat a top 25 SEC team. Doesn't matter who it is. Fill in the blank with whoever. But apparently it does matter who it is.
It does matter.
Because of the history.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm one that believes that Vanderbilt is on the right track. That coach is just like we hired Sark and maybe A&M with Elko. I didn't think that was going to be the case, but apparently he's more effective than this guy thought he was going to be.
Yep.
With A&M. And so it just makes you wonder how we scratch our heads so many times with some of the hires we made and suffered through, decade or more of mediocre football. It's crazy.
Yep. Let's thank one of our sponsors as we approach the end of our winning drive here. South Point Dodge, really grateful to them. If you need a car or a truck, or you have any automotive needs at all, South Point Dodge is a great place to go, folks. You can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point at South Point Dodge. They have over 600 vehicles in stock right now, right this very moment, including a great selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, 3500s as well. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is the one-stop shop. You can score big today at South Point Dodge, including getting a great deal on a Ram 2500s. Right now, they have over 50 of them marked down with huge savings. And all you got to do is go online and check out their fantastic inventory at southpointdodge.com. Or you can go check them out in person off of I-35 in South Austin at South Point Dodge. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is the one-stop shop. Austin's automotive everything. It is southpointdodge.com. Thank you very much for sponsoring the winning drive. We appreciate all of your support. All right, we got a couple of questions here, gentlemen, before we get close to the end here. How about this one from Rudy? Rudy says, what can the coaches do to improve pass pro? Yeah, because that's definitely what they're going to be doing in the bye week. Coach, what are your thoughts? What do you do to improve pass protection? It's an issue. What have you done? What are the coaching methods that you?
Yeah, well, I would say the first thing is when you have an off week, you always go back to the fundamentals. Always. You go back and say, okay, let's go. We've got a week. Let's kind of review over some of our basic stuff that we were doing when the first week you were here. Okay, go back and make sure that our offensive line are taking good steps, that they are not getting lazy. And one thing I would like for our guys to do a little more of, it's really hard to do. You almost have to do it instinctively. But when you see a lineman's hands go up, you punch him in the gut. You punch him in the gut. You just do. I've been doing it for years. You punch his butt in the gut, not his butt in the gut, but you get his hands down. However, you have to do that. Okay, and so we've got too many tip balls, too many batted balls, and my old saying, as you know very well, is a tip ball is usually a caught ball by the opposite team, and so. Get their hands down however you can. Continue to be aggressive in your pass protection mode and not be passive by sitting back waiting on him, because he's just waiting to jump now. He's separating himself from you so that he can jump and time it, because you've stopped him and he knows he's not going to get to the quarterback, so he's going to position himself in a way that he can bat down the ball. So that's when you have to be more aggressive and go punch him. He's not coming at you. He's standing still so that he can jump up for, he's standing still for a reason so that he can jump up and bat down the pass. Yeah. And you've got to be aggressive, punch him in the gut, get his hands down.
Randy Jones actually makes an interesting comment here, and Texas hasn't ever really shown this, but you cut them. That's what Vanderbilt was doing on the quick plays. RPO is a little different, right? Because you're expecting the option to either run the football or for Quinn to pull it and throw it, and that's why you don't see the pulling there for the Longhorns on that side of the ball. But in defense of Quinn, again, and I feel like I've been, on Quinn's side here for a week or two now, but both deflections were essentially unblocked men coming right at him. The second one was a guy coming off the edge that wasn't touched. It was a good, well-timed blitz by Vanderbilt, and the guy was about 2-3 yards away from Quinn at the time of the throw. He got his hand up, made the play. First one was a play in which RPO, Quinn pulls it, has Matthew Golden run for about 12, 13 yards down the field. Would have been a completion. We've seen Quinn hit this play time and time and time again. But there's a duo on the interior where the offensive lineman doubled one of the nose guys, and then he's supposed to come off and find the blitzing linebacker, and he just didn't do it in time. It just wasn't enough of a shoulder check, enough of a bump, and as a result, he gets to the backfield. He's 2 or 3 yards in the backfield, and he's right in Quinn's face. That's a tough throw. It's tough. It's one thing when you're sitting back in the pocket and you throw a ball and 4 yards down, 5 yards down the field, it's batted up by a guy doing this. It's another thing when the guy's jumping right here and he's feet away from you. And in both instances, that's kind of where those deflections happen. It was just essentially unblocked men, hands up right in the face of Quinn. Second one, I still think he should have made that throw over him. But on the flip side, and this is where this discourse takes a different turn, is we're praising Ethan Burke for getting a hand up.
Yeah.
Play. He made a deflection that went sky high right into the lap of Michael Taff, and he said it himself. He goes, in the postgame, he said, I didn't really have to do anything. Ethan Burke did the work. I had to make sure that ball didn't hit the ground. My stats look good now. That's how crazy it is that this discourse is happening, that it's the fault of Quinn, the fault of Quinn, the fault of Quinn. Hey, Ethan Burke, hell of a play. Way to make that play happen. I get the frustration, but sometimes defensive players make good plays.
It's on scholarship too.
They put their pads on just like Texas does, right? So, again, it can be avoidable. Quinn could make a better throw. Offensive line could block the guy blitzing up the middle. Both can be true. Mm-hmm. But it's weird how this conversation just continues to kind of snowball into it's the quarterback's fault over and over and over and over again.
I'm with you, CJ. I'm glad we have Quinn Ewers as our quarterback, and I'm not trading him. I'm not trading him because he's shown time after time after time that he loves this program. He loves his teammates. He loves the game of football. I think he's going to finish off strong. I really do. I think the fact that he came back after that tipped interception on the first drive, it never rattled him. Never saw any residue from that, if you can call it that, in the game. He was past that. He understands it is what it is. That's going to happen sometimes. It's not your fault. I do wonder sometimes if maybe he could pump fake a little bit to get a guy's hands up and then get around him and then make a throw. possibly something like that. I don't know, but that's more of an instinctive quarterback play. I don't know that that's something you can coach.
That's like a Stafford level play, right? He's up here and then you see him dip down below and it almost looks like a curveball around him. And again, that's one of those things where, and we don't see that play all too much from Quinn, the little PA waggle to a tight end leaking out in the back. We don't see that too much. So maybe it's not in the bag yet. But again, it's that uniqueness, and it's something that Quinn has, right? We've talked about the off platform, the arm angles, the way that he can kind of just flick a wrist and let the ball fling down the field. That ball has to be completed. It can't be tipped up, but it was a good play. So again, little things like that can be improved on.
Yep. No, I think the big thing for Quinn to me is how he handles pressure going forward. Right. That's what Vanderbilt did. They at the highest blitz rate that Quinn has seen so far this season. And blitzing is just gambling. So they were just rolling the dice and hoping it worked out in their favor. Quinn is going to get a lot more of that. And even NFL scouts, they want to see how Quinn handles pressure. The conversation surrounding Quinn prior to this season was, he was great handling pressure in 2022, not so good in 2023. That's what the pressure to sack numbers allowed, pressure percentage, all those metrics show that they've been split, right? They're not sure if he handled pressure really well or if he panicked under pressure or if they weren't sure. 2024 was going to determine that. Against Michigan, he was great handling pressure. Amazing. Actually, his Pro Football Focus grade was higher under pressure than it was with a clean pocket, excuse me. And now we've seen in this game and even in the Georgia game, he didn't handle pressure so well. And this game was kind of a mixed bag. There were some plays, 3rd and 20, he was awesome. The play to Gunnar Helm over the middle, the third, I think it was like a 3rd and maybe 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. It was a great throw under pressure when it came with a 6-man blitz. So now, but he also has to tip passes and interceptions under pressure. And there's the sacks under pressure. So it's still a mixed bag. Nobody really knows if Quinn handles pressure well or if he panics under pressure. We still don't know. The sample sizes, right, guys, they don't necessarily give you a true accurate evaluation of whether he does or not.
It's coin flip, and you don't want it to be a coin flip.
Yes.
Not in those high pressure situations.
Yes. Great point. All right. That might be a good place to leave it as well. Let's thank another one of our sponsors. Let's thank our good friends at Flat Creek before we're done here. Our friends at Flat Creek Estate Winery. They do a great job. I am a big fan, and so will you be as soon as you try Flat Creek Estate Winery. But also they have a great wine. They're Super Texan, which, by the way, my wife loves. She's a huge fan of their Super Texan, and you will be too. Of course, their vineyard is very close to Austin. Matter of fact, it's just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award for the wine I just mentioned, Super Texan. It's now available at your local spec, so give it a try. Of course, you can also go to their gorgeous venue. They have barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. It's perfect for a date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with that very special person in your life. So go check it out for yourself, flatcreekestate.com. You can also see their great inventory of wines, but also you can go there and book yourself a great weekend getaway with Flat Creek Estate Winery. Also, they have their selection available at your local Central Market as well. I do some shopping there, and I saw it at Central Market. So I'm really happy about that. Friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery, thank you for sponsoring the Winning Drive. And for being a part of the On Texas Football family. All right, that's it for the Winning Drive. Thank you guys for all the questions. Really appreciate the questions and the super chats. If we couldn't answer all of them, we apologize. Send them up to the guys tomorrow morning for Coffee and Football, starting at 8 a.m. right here on the On Texas Football YouTube channel. Also, if there's anything that breaks, you can keep it locked in at ontexasfootball.com. And for Matthew behind the scenes, doing a great job. He's a real MVP, so we appreciate all of his efforts. And for CJ Vogel and for Coach and for our sponsors, Flat Creek Estate Winery and for duckcamp.com, also for South Point Dodge and Hardgrove Roofing. Thank you very much to Lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee as well. And thank you guys for joining us. Really appreciate your time. Don't forget, tomorrow you got Coffee and Football at 8 a.m. and you have the Tuesday night live stream that'll be at 7 p.m. with E. Hogan hosting for CJ Vogel, for Coach, and for myself and for Matthew behind the scenes. Until next time, Hook 'em Horns.